Welcome to Rebels Reaction. I'm Tyler.
I'm Christine.
Rebels Reaction is the show where we recap and react to each new episode of Rebels. After a week off, we're back with Imperial Super Commandos. Christine, your one-word reaction.
More.
More. I'd like to hear more about that. My one word was jetpacks, because they're cool.
That they are.
And other reasons too. Keep listening to hear more about that. Let's go.
You know of the rebellion against the Empire?
Perhaps you referred to the imminent attack on your rebel fleet.
Where is the rebel base?
I didn't know there was anyone willing to stand up against the Empire.
All right, this week we have Imperial Super Commandos. Let's jump right in with the big three. Number one, I have Prisoner. Mm-hmm. We get this prisoner that we've seen before in previous seasons, Fen Rao. And he is talking with Sabine about, well, they're kind of playing this virtual game. Looks like it's Mandalorian because of they're poking knives in a box.
Yeah.
Kind of like chess, maybe checkers, 3D, 4D, something. It looks interesting.
Warrior version of chess.
It could be. Stab your opponent till they're dead. I don't know.
Gosh.
I mean, it fits as we run through the rest of the episode. So we find out that there's this deal that's been struck, or we already know that this deal's been struck between Fen Rao through the Concord Dawn system and his base on the third moon there, allowing rebels safe passage through that system, or not attacking them, while still kind of striking a deal with the Empire to keep them out of their business. Pretty much, he just wants to be loyal to Mandalore and protect, hence his group's name, the Protectors, Mandalore. And the rebels aren't getting any friendly signals from the third moon, and so they want to go investigate, or Sabine suggests going and investigating. Her, Ezra, Chopper, and Finn go on this recon mission. Of course, Finn pretty much, well, I don't know if it's really betraying, but escapes.
Yeah.
Because Ezra doesn't pay attention.
Yeah.
And we quickly find out that Rao's men have all been killed. And while Ezra and Sabine think it's the Empire, Rao thinks it is other Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Which we come to find out that they're both right.
Yeah. Interesting dynamic.
So we get a little bit of this picture with number 2 into Mandalorian rivalries. Mm-hmm. When probe droid shows up, rebels destroy it, and then these super commandos show up, who are really just Mandalorians working for the Empire.
Yeah. And
we're introduced to Gar Saxon. He calls himself the Imperial Viceroy. He ends up capturing Ezra. Sabine wants to free Ezra, help Ezra escape. Rao just wants to leave.
Yeah.
Very survivalist in that, but appreciates, in the end, the loyalty that Sabine has for Ezra.
Not so much in the meantime.
Not so much. So we really kind of get this. The driving piece of the episode becomes escape for Ezra and escape from the Concord Dawn system. Mm-hmm. Back and forth between the Mandalorians working for the Empire and our group of, well, mostly Mandalorians. I guess Ezra is the only non-Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's true.
And during this whole interchange and attempt to escape, we get a little bit of insight and intrigue into Sabine's past, or at least teasers towards it. And we get a nice jetpack chase scene.
Which is awesome.
Awesome, but also seems somewhat unrealistic to me. I
Well,
don't know how much fuel is in those things.
That is true. I was kind of thinking that too. Like, when is that going to run out?
It could be. The gravity could be off on that moon. Just it's smaller and
yeah.
like a quarter of it's been blown to bits.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'll let the physics of that situation pass. But we get a pretty good chase scene in there, a good action sequence overall. And our crew, number 3, ends up escaping, and although very resistant and almost combative at the beginning of the episode, Rao at the beginning of the episode blaming the rebels for the death of his men, comes to realize by the end of the episode that it was probably a good thing that they had captured and imprisoned him.
Because otherwise he'd be dead too.
Yeah, otherwise he'd be dead too. And then he appreciates Sabine's loyalty to her friends, kind of makes that connection between Mandalorian code or clan community, something, and decides, well, I'm going to join the rebels as well. Yeah. So just after he almost
abandons them,
Ezra and Sabine, to be killed. So I think overall, interesting episode.
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily brought the same sort of power and vigor that previous episodes have.
It was a little underwhelming after the last few, because the last few have been so awesome that this one was more reminiscent of the last few seasons, where it was like cool and interesting, but just not as powerful and as intense as the other episodes.
Yeah, but still didn't feel like a filler episode.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It wasn't Chopper Base, or where it's just kind of, okay, we just want the result of this. Let's figure out a story to kind of get there. We get bits and pieces of information that had this not just been a 25 minute episode, rather maybe a 45-minute hour episode. We could have dug a lot deeper.
Yeah.
We get goading from Saxon towards Sabine, and honor with her family, and abandoning the Imperial Academy.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to hear more.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you were saying.
That's all part of my more.
Okay, so let's dive into that. What are you saying about more?
Well, I like the little snippets we get about Sabine's past, about Mandalorian clan interactions, about the whole system that their world, or how their world works. But it felt kind of incomplete. I wanted more of it. It felt like there was little snips, but not enough to really like get a good picture.
Yeah.
And like you said, they can't accomplish all of that in a short episode when that's not the main focus, but it makes me, I want more, and I didn't feel satisfied with what I got.
Yeah. So, and I think that's kind of where I landed as well, that there were some intriguing bits of information that I really hope they build on.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, bringing Rao into the fold of the rebellion, I think is going to make a big difference, especially at a climactic point within the season. Because we've kind of seen a few characters in the last couple, and in the 3 seasons of Rebels kind of be introduced, and then they'll come back every once in a while. But I think we're building towards something, especially as we approach Rogue One, where there's going to be a pretty big conglomerate of these people these characters that we've seen.
I hope so.
That may work together, and we may see some of them show up in a live action, which would be kind of cool. That we get bits and pieces of them in different mediums, and maybe they play a large role in one, but a minor role in another. And it's just fun to see how they're tying all those pieces together, or threading them together throughout the story. So I'll be interested to see that. I did like let's just jump into, well, let me talk about, I guess you talked about your one-word reaction. I'll talk about mine. Jetpacks. I mentioned we had our jetpack chase scene, essentially. A little iffy on the physics, but like I said, I'll look past that. Overall fun piece. I really liked that Sabine was like, oh, I've always really wanted one of these, and then just throws it on the back of her armor, which is kind of cool that those pieces are almost interchangeable.
Yeah.
The different elements of, I think the jetpack really just sets apart the Mandalorians from so many of the other characters. Their armor kind of looks similar to some Imperial pieces, especially the ones that are working for the Empire in this episode. But I mean, in general, since it's kind of derivative of the original clone armor was derived from some Mandalorian-looking armor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the
same thing,
but there's similarities, and it kind of evolves along the way. That there's kind of this tie to the Empire and tie towards just so many other areas and the long history of Mandalore that, I don't know, Mandalorian armor is just cool.
It is cool.
And that's probably why so many people like Boba Fett and
he just
Jango.
looks awesome.
And there's something to be said for that, and it's fun when we get more Mandalorians, even though it didn't feel real strong in terms of their interactions. But to get pieces of what it means to be Mandalorian and the continuous infighting of Mandalorian culture, I think we're going to get at least a little bit, hopefully a lot more of that as the season drives along.
Yeah, I really hope so.
And I totally veered off from jetpacks, but that's
okay.
pretty much the chase scene. Sabine has one. Hopefully she fixes it and she gets to continue to use it.
Yeah, her tone at the end was funny. He shot my jetpack.
Yeah, exactly.
What the heck? Come on, man.
Yeah, she seemed pretty bummed about that, but does escape in spite of losing her jetpack right at the end moment.
Of course.
And, I mean, this episode, let's jump into what we liked.
Okay.
So action sequences for me, I thought were strong.
Cool, at least.
I don't think they were overwhelmingly involved. But, I mean, a decent chase scene, kind of fun.
I like when Sabine dropped Ezra right onto Chopper as they're all flying, but he doesn't realize the Chopper's below him, so he thinks she's dropping him to his death.
Which is a bummer. She's got to have some, really strong grip.
Yeah, I was thinking that when she was just dangling him by his arm, I was like, dang, they're both really strong.
Yeah, so another thing that I felt was a little unrealistic. It's Star Wars, it's a cartoon, it's fantasy fiction, sci-fi land. So it kind of took me out of the moment.
Okay.
I think more than anything else.
Yeah.
So it's just being nitpicky more than anything.
Like you said, it could be different gravity on that moon.
That's true, and I'm just going to chalk it up to that. Everyone weighs 1/8 of what they did before, except they weren't bouncing around, so...
Let's move on.
We're getting too far. I liked some insights into the Mandalorians. That idea of infighting within their culture, mentions of clans and houses, really trying to figure out how that all fits together.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of resources out there that really explain it.
Probably are.
None that I really know of off the top of my head in canon. So it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if they kind of change or more explain that moving forward. And then the mystery of Sabine.
Yeah, what her past really is, and the whole her mom situation was interesting. How her dad's looking for her, and her mom is working for the Imperials now, and is supposedly ashamed of her. And Sabine says, "You must have not given her a choice," and he's like, "No, she came of her own accord." So that whole family dynamic would be interesting to figure out.
Yeah, and the fact that we don't really know a whole lot about it, that her team doesn't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
Saxon tries to bring it up in that kind of manner of using her family background against her. So it'd be nice to get some sort of clarification on that at some point, because it feels like they're going to be characters in the future.
Yeah.
Whatever amount that is, I think they're going to continue to come up as this season or subsequent seasons.
Yeah,
come
maybe
along.
we'll finally get an episode of her past, because we've gotten one of almost everybody else's.
Well, and we kind of had one in season 2
with her friend.
Well, with essentially this same group. Well, a little bit with her friend. I forget her name.
I can't remember her name
the
either.
bounty hunter. But with Rao, and that's where we first meet
Oh, yeah,
Rao
that's right.
on this same base. And it was just kind of a couple of the puzzle pieces. So
Yeah.
we're starting to get a few of those puzzle pieces to kind of put together. I would like it more in this fashion than in season 2, where it was just kind of a dedicated episode and the whole point seemed to be just kind of the background of some of these characters.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to get that background, but as a
It fit
part
in
of
more of the storyline.
of a larger story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things I thought could have been, or is there anything else that you really liked?
I just had one. What was it? I can't remember. It had something to do with Sabine's background.
Okay.
Let's move on. I'll
we
figure
can
it out.
we can come back to it if you remember. Okay, things I thought could have been better. For really the first time that I've watched Rebels or really even Clone Wars, some of the animation in this episode kind of took me out of the moment as well.
Oh, really?
The first one was when Ezra was awkwardly whistling.
Yeah, that felt a little weird.
That it just
It felt a little forced.
Yeah, the animation didn't quite line up with the whistling. Something just seemed off there. A little bit in the chase scene didn't seem like the background wasn't quite moving in conjunction with the characters.
Oh, okay, I didn't notice that.
So it just seemed a little bit off. It took me out of the moment itself. Not a huge deal, but just something I hadn't
unusual.
I hadn't really noticed before, because so much of the animation has been
Awesome.
tremendous to
Yeah.
this point that is kind of maybe something felt a little rushed or looked over in this episode. I don't think it detracted from the episode overall, but there just seemed to be a few spots where it was a little shakier than I have come to expect from Rebels. The other thing, I felt overall, the plot felt kind of flat. That it didn't really have the kind of robustness that we've seen out of this season, which, I mean, they've kind of set a high bar for themselves.
Yeah.
So, give and take there. But, again, I just kind of felt like we were missing just a little bit of that something. I don't know what that X factor that...
you wanted more, but you wanted more of what?
Yeah. So, I think overall, a good and interesting episode. Some very interesting elements that were introduced, but not really fleshed out.
Yeah.
I'll be really interested to see the roles that really these two Mandalorians that we get a little bit more introduced to in Rao and Saxon being a part of the broader story in season 3 and how those pieces fit together. Anything else you thought could have been a little bit better, or did you remember what you really
I remember
liked?
what I was going to say before. I liked the animation of as they come up to Rao on the hilltop, as he's looking over and seeing that his people are dead. They made it like they did a lot of good subtle things in that you pretty much knew before they even showed it what had happened. And that takes a lot of minute details, and that was cool. Just even the expressions on their faces as they're looking at him. You haven't even seen him yet. You can already tell that something very mysterious and terrible has happened. Yeah. And I thought that was good. And how he like doesn't resist at all when Ezra takes his blaster. Yeah. What I didn't love as much was when Sabine was fighting. I think it was when she was fighting Saxon.
Okay.
How she totally owned him, and she's a teenage girl and he's a grown man, and she was trained by the warriors of her clan. So I'd think that the leaders of, they're not her clan, but I would think that the leaders of the Mandalorian groups would be the best fighters.
Yeah, probably. In that kind of sequence, I was thinking to myself, is the armor really soft? Because they keep punching each other in the face and like making it look like they hurt, but like hurt the person that was being attacked, but not like ow, that hurt my hand because I just punched armor.
Yeah, just punch something that's solid metal.
Yeah, so that was a little strange to me, but I mean, overall, there were things that we could overlook.
Yeah.
In this episode if we really wanted to. So I think overall, fair episode in our estimation.
Yeah.
But one that gave us some interesting elements I'm looking forward to finding out more about.
Yeah.
So that wraps up this episode of Rebels Reaction. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at UnmistakablySW, Facebook.com/UnmistakablyStarWars. I think Jeremy's working on some YouTube stuff, so I'll be interested to hear what comes of that. Maybe we can post our podcast on YouTube at some point. That'd be fun.
See what we look like. Uh-oh.
Never mind. We'll have to not do this late at night then. Check out our flagship podcast, which should be posting tomorrow. I'm pretty sure Devin's back with Star Wars on Tap on Thursday. If you haven't already checked out this month's Force Discourse, it's on Ahsoka, so be sure to download and listen to that. We've always got great articles going up on our website at unmistakably.starwars.com. You can find all of our podcasts there as well. So for this episode of Rebels Reaction, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Christine.
Next week, we'll be back with Iron Squadron. Should be fun. Until then, may the Force be with you.
It repeats. It repeats. It rebels. It repeats. It embrace your destiny.
Welcome to the rebellion. Jedi. Rebel. Jedi.